Welcome to German Chocolate, Life of a Mixed Girl. And this is a special series, season 1 of The Experts That I Know. How, why, what? Check out the intro if you haven't seen it yet and you're wondering what I'm doing here and who this other person is sitting with. Well, that's what I'm about to talk about in a moment. Well, this is a special episode if you are into, have always been interested in anything holistic, spiritual, the planets, alignment, what's happening, or you kind of just want to see us talk about it. You got nothing better to do. Well, today I have Lena here. She is a certified holistic health coach, and we've known each other for years. We met because we're both German. We are both moms of an American German child. And we discovered at the time we were both health coaches. And that is all I'm about to disclose for legal reasons. No, just kidding. But yeah, that's the short form. So it's very funny because Melina has always been my go-to person when I'm like, I don't know, something feels weird today. I was like, hey, what's the weather like? What are the planets doing? Again, this was way before I was even looking into anything retrograding and Mercuries and all of those things. Or had any crystals in my house, which I do. And I always forget the name, but we can talk about it in a little bit. So yes. And the timing has struck again for us. Like the first time how we met was totally coincidental, or was it not? That's part of the universe's plan of wherever we're trying to go. And this time when I asked, hey, would you like to be on my podcast at Expert? She's like, I actually want to start my own podcast, but I've been kind of unsure and kind of waiting, and I don't know. And I was like, well, boop, here goes the boot. Now everybody knows that you want to start a podcast, and it's going to be all about, let me read, the realm of spiritual energy, self-healing, HSP, yes, highly sensitive people, and how to live in this world. Ooh. Well, hi, Lena.
Hey.
How are you today?
I'm good. I actually had the exact same thought when you were talking about how we met. It's like, right in the subject. It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. And it's so funny because we both live in Florida. We both lived in Winter Garden, the back door of Disney. I don't live there anymore. Melina may or may not live there still. So don't come for her. I'm sure people might be wondering, what exactly is a holistic health coach? What does one do?
Great question, because as the name says, holistic, everything in its whole, right? Everybody specializes in probably a little bit of a different thing. And you got to be careful when you do that, because sometimes you step into things that are now, could be life coaching, could be personal training. So what are you actually certified for? Usually health coaches go into nutrition, into your lifestyle, into your health overall, and everybody has a little bit of their different niche. Working with, I don't know, menopausal women, men, could be kids, could be anything. So when I used to still have clients, I was usually working with women, just because those are the ones that are most of the time looking for a health coach.
Yeah, it's a very typical thing. And anything, even in mental health, a lot of times, that's what you see. Yeah, so that is amazing. So you said when you used to do it. So what has your journey been like, and how has it evolved since you started that journey of becoming a health coach?
Oh, God, that's a loaded question. How much time do you have?
The clock is ticking.
I think it is really from my own personal journey. I was extremely overweight when I was younger, when I was in my teens, and all kinds of health issues. And when I was about on the verge of my 20s, something clicked. Now, here's a little backstory too about this something clicked. When people always say it has to click, it actually really does. For me,
tell me more.
Yeah. So my aunt one of my aunts she passed away. So she used to be an energy healer kind of on the side. She did a lot of like kinesiology. She did tapping. She did, all kinds of chakra work and remote healing and things like this.
Ooh.
She started working chakras with me, and I was always very open about anything. Like, sure, I have nothing against anything. And she did that, and we did tapping, and we did affirmations with the tapping, and it unstuck something. That's how I want to describe it. It unstuck some type of energy that got loose, and my entire view of my own health changed literally overnight. I woke up and I said, I'm going to change this. And I did. And I lost half of my body weight within a year and a half. It went really fast. Got extremely disciplined with working out, just moving my body somehow, watching what I eat. And that really caused a domino effect, because now I was hungry for knowledge, not for food. Knowledge. I ate all the books. I read them all, every podcast that was there, once I discovered podcasts, of course, a little bit later, because back then there was no such thing. TV shows, documentaries, whatever you name it that was about health and especially nutrition, I ingested. So that was...
Actually, I'm curious about that. So you did say it clicked, and a lot of people might not know what tapping is, but it literally is tapping. So now afterwards that you got all the knowledge about it and known more, do you know what your blockage was, or kind of that thing that you needed, or if you want to share?
Yeah, I still, thank goodness, I still have the book from her and a lot of her materials. And I looked through it, and I remember one distinct tapping, and her tapping was more, you had to hold the place sometimes versus tapping, which is letting go, pushing, letting go. That's what tapping is. But she would push, and you would have to say an affirmation that was connected to that point. And I had to pretty much say, in German, of course, I had to say that I love myself. And my voice would break, and there was no peep coming out. And I thought, well, this is odd. Let me try that again. And I did it, and nothing came out. It was almost like somebody turned off my voice every time I wanted to say it. And she said, okay, that's problem right here. That's problem. So we worked on self-worth, and maybe it was more of I am not worthy to change or to be healthy or to, get out of this rut that I was in. I'm still referencing this book today a lot, because now, don't get me wrong, clearing these energy blocks, or whatever you want to call them, is hard stuff. It's not fun, because you have all kinds of trauma coming up and reasoning why, beliefs that are not yours, which I'm still battling today, even though I know all of these things. But every once in a while, and I have a counselor too, these things come up where, like, wait a second, is that my belief, or is that something that someone put on me in maybe my childhood?
It's interesting because people a lot of times make it seem easy, especially if you scroll on some social media websites and people are like, oh, all you got to do is do this or love yourself more. But these are deep rooted problems, sometimes masked as other things too. So especially something like, oh, I love myself. It might seem so silly sometimes when you see that. Or you might be like, I do love myself. Yeah, you're consciously, you might think it, but deep down, things that people have said generationally, or how you used to feel, it's powerful and it's hard, and it takes a lot of awareness and self-awareness and work, but it just has to be worth it, to do. So that's amazing. So going through the journey, you realized for yourself that's something you wanted to do. Did you then at some point just feel like, hey, I want to share this with other people? Or was it more like I feel like I'm meant to help other people? Like, what was that like, that transition from helping yourself to wanting to help other people?
Honestly, I think what fueled really going in that profession deeper wasn't what, yes, it was, I wanted to help people and I wanted everybody to have that option, but it was also like, what is the freaking truth? Because
Hmm.
when you get into the subject of health and longevity and nutrition, all of that, there is so much weird stuff out there, and everybody will tell you this is the holy grail. No, this is. No, this is.
Yeah.
And me then moving from Germany to the US, where out of a sudden there was a whole different avalanche of information that I trusted, changed what I was doing, and immediately went downhill. I mean, it was horrible. So I thought, oh, wait a second. Okay. So that narrative might not be the right one. And honestly, through years and years of gathering information and trying to find people as well that are brave enough to tell the truth, that might not be in alignment with what our government may be saying or what some experts are saying, I found the hardest truth that is out there, and that is, well, there is no one truth. And that was really hard
Yeah.
for me, because I'm trying to find like the perfect thing, and then I realized actually what's right for me might not be right for you, might not be right for the next person, because we're all so incredibly different.
Yeah.
And that's also hard to work with, because when you have a client, you need to figure out first, how do they tick? What's their
Yep.
life? What does their body want? What does their soul want? What does nurturing want? You know, what are you hungry for besides food? What do you need in your life? And it's because again, holistic, it's so intricate and it's so detailed and it's so deep.
It is. And a lot of times I'm sure people come in and they think they want one thing, walk out realizing, especially when you say about what does your soul want, you're like, huh, what are you talking about? But I think when you grow up, you're always also told, hey, treat people the way you want to be treated. And it's meant like in a really nice way. It just means like manners and stuff. But that's what we're so used to. But just personality wise, culturally, so many different things were so different. So if I'm an extrovert and I go somewhere and someone's an introvert and now I treat them how I want to be treated, they might be really uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
it's that alone is already a whole nother category. But how would one even find out what their soul wants?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the uncomfortable part. That is that work that we just talked about, the self-worth thing. That goes right into that category, right? How can you find out what you really want? And I was just reading somewhere about things that we are being taught not saying. We're taught to say, or not to say, sorry. We are taught not to say I want, especially as women, XYZ. Because that is like very demanding and a little
don't be
bit
greedy.
too assertive, and you're not grateful and all the things. And the other thing we're taught to not say, even from some counselors, is I can't. But I can't is a very important thing to say, because it will tell someone else it is not worth the effort for me and I don't want to do it. I can't do that because it will tax me and not reward me enough. And saying that I want, you're just stating a desire. That's okay. And those two things go hand in hand. And you can also saying I don't want, which is a lot easier, by the way. It's a lot easier to say I don't want that. When someone asks you, what do you want? You're like, I don't know. Okay, great. Start with what you don't want. It's okay. It's okay to just eliminate some stuff on the list until you know, oh, I see what's left here.
But it's so interesting that you say that, because I'm like a person, and you know me, like once you dive into something and then you just overthink, because then you also get the people that say, well, your mind can't differentiate between the negative and the positive. So if you say, I don't want something, then you might still introduce it into your life because it's like, oh, you want this. But it's so contradictory to when people talk about manifesting. For example, they're like, no, if you say you want something, you get stuck into wanting. So the universe will give you want. So I'm going to keep you wanting. I was like, what's the right thing to do? And and there are just too many things.
Yeah. And that's great, because when you're manifesting, and you are stuck in the manifestation because you actually really don't know what you want and you have a hard time with it, knowing what you don't want and write it down, that's just a path to get to the want. It's not like, I'm saying it to the universe, something. I'm just working on to deliver something for the universe so it can do something for me. And the universe is very forgiving. It will give you time. It's funny because sometimes, we've probably all been there. We get something where we think it's absolutely horrible, and then come to find out, oh, that actually wasn't so bad. That actually saved me from this other thing or whatever.
Yeah, which can be often also the ending of a relationship, the ending of a job, all of those things where you can't believe you're mad at yourself, you're mad at the universe, you go through all kinds of stages, to get back on the other side. And you're like, well, if you ask the universe to be something different than you are now. I love kind of the saying of your world has to fall apart to come back. So I just recently heard somebody say the breaking point, and why it's important to actually call it that, because something has to break and feel like that, because then it can emerge again. And sometimes if you don't listen enough, the universe has given you a ton of signs. Then it's like, all right, I'm going to knock you over the head with it because you haven't noticed the signs. Gives
Absolutely.
you what you need and not always what you want in the moment. So actually, I love this topic. I wasn't really thinking I was going to talk a lot about manifesting, but I've lately, my TikTok has been like swamped. You stay on one video too long. It's so funny because I would say I am kind of a master manifester for all things long-term. Some people might know. I didn't know when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh, Christina Aguilera is like dating a Puerto Rican dancer. There are no Puerto Ricans in Germany, by the way. I was like, I'm going to marry a Puerto Rican one day. Like, universe, I was kidding, but it gave me a Puerto Rican back then. It's just one of the many, many things. Or even the person I'm dating right now, it was a laundry list of items on my checklist. And it was funny. I was so specific, because sometimes they say be really, really specific, that for me, a problem a lot of times was, as if you know me or you're watching this and things, I love to be free, do a whole bunch of things. I'm super creative. I need to have freedom. I always say I'm kind of feel like a Mustang. You can't put like a leash on and keep me like fenced somewhere. I'll stay, but don't put the leash on, and don't make me your center of your universe, because it'll like, wah! So I was like, I have to have a person, but that I'm not the center of the universe. Like, that's not going to work. So, and they gave it to me too much. So as we had a long distance relationship at first, I was like, oh, sometimes I feel like we're just friends.
Yeah.
Because he's like, in the terms of the love languages too, like when we were together, it was all like great. But when we weren't, it felt like a friendship, because we live two separate lives, but love being together. So you got to be careful sometimes how specific you get, but it ended up being what I needed. But short-term wise, so I'm somebody I know whatever I want, I can get there. And people that don't believe in manifestation might say, well, yeah, if you're hustling, like you can always get what you want. And people say you got to be consistent. But that is with The Secret, for whoever watched The Secret. Like, people are like, I'm going to imagine I have the car in front of the house and whatever. And then other people are like, well, if you work hard, obviously you can get the car. But it's where the opportunities meet the hard work, in the sense. And it doesn't have to be hard. That's another one of those things. We all believe it has to be hard. We think logical, but the universe isn't logical. So I love this. So everything's always long term. And I know this is like a draggy question, but have you ever manifested anything that was short term, where, you said something and you're like, all right, that was like a quicker, smaller thing? Or what's your belief in that sense, manifesting wise?
I could give you a laundry list. A laundry list. So, okay, so here's a really good subject because I know you and me have talked about this and how other people may laugh at us when it comes to parking spaces. Okay, so I'm going to give you a parking spot story.
Yes.
My mother is visiting, and you know, Winter Garden Farmers Market is gigantic, and we have this parking garage, and it's so busy when the weather is beautiful that when you get there after 9 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to get a parking spot. There's absolutely no way. My mom is with me, and she can't walk really much, you know. So I'm in the parking garage going through this, and my mom, who is not really that spiritual, but she will say things like, I'm going to send the universe something. And that's the only thing she does that's spiritual. she will manifest parking spots. She's really good at it too. And I said, we need a parking spot right by the elevator so that you don't have to walk so much. I know that is a big ask because it's an instant ask right now, and I didn't give the universe any time to prepare. We're going in circles, and we're stopping at the rooftop, and this lady in front of me is just blocking the entire road, and it's some older ladies, and they're talking, and they're having like a whole lunch break there, and I'm stuck. I am literally stuck behind them. There's someone, I can't go anywhere. We're getting really frustrated. I'm like, don't get frustrated. This is time buying.
Yeah.
The universe is getting us stuck because it's buying time. My mom's like, okay, we're staying calm. You know, we're smiling in the car. We're waving at them. We're like, don't rush them. Let's just let it go. Just let it go. They move, and I'm not kidding you. We were like 15 minutes in the car. It was not a 5-minute thing. It was a 15-minute thing. I drive around, and someone right next to the elevator drives out. There's no one else in sight. With all these cars that are circling the parking lot, there's nobody. And I hit my blinker, and I go in it, and I say, see? This is why those old ladies back there had to have their lunch break in the middle of the road.
And that's so funny because a lot of people won't realize it. I'm like the first, like sometimes Everett will be like, I'm driving because sometimes you just an angry driver. Mm-hmm. It's like, I get really mad too. But that, yeah, I guess I wish more things felt as instant as a parking spot because I feel like that's always works. And I get really nervous because Everett doesn't believe in it. And he's always like, oh, now we're going to get this parking spot. And then every time we get one, he finds like a reason why else we got it. But I get really nervous for a moment. I was like, what if that one time we don't get a parking spot? He's like, see, we don't get a parking spot. Mm-hmm. But yesterday I had a reverse thing happen. I was on my way to go to the movies. My son and I, we've been waiting for a couple of months. I had it in my calendar. We wanted to see it. And because it was kind of a action-y movie, I wanted to see it in Dolby. We don't have a Dolby here, so I had to go to Tampa. It's an hour drive usually to get to Tampa. It took us 2.5 hours yesterday to get to Tampa. Mm-hmm. There was an accident on the Skyway Bridge and it got more and more. The movie started at 7. And then it was said that we were going to get there 7:15, 7:30. And when it went like later, it's like, okay, usually it's, half an hour, then the movie starts. But I love watching the trailers, but whatever. So we're driving, and then I start like crying a little bit because it was past 7:40. I was like, I was at work. I was telling the universe, it's like, you know what? I am really happy where I am. I feel really grateful for things, and we're going to watch this movie tonight. And I'm super happy about that. No, I don't matter if I'm getting any like auditions or booking anything. I'm really grateful from the moment. And I felt punished when I was driving. I was like, can I just be happy one time about this one thing that's working? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm done. I guess I really have to feel miserable all the time in order for you to give me what I want. And it's super annoying. I was like, if I'm not making it to this movie on time, I said, I'm done. I'm like, seriously. And then it's the strangest thing. Like we were really stop and go, and it's at 7:45. All of a sudden I get over the hump. I went from going 5 miles an hour, if even to going 50 miles an hour. And that 7:45 turned to a 7:24. All of a sudden, I don't know where the traffic went, how it worked. I rushed there. We parked, we found the parking spot right where I wanted it. We go in, use the restroom. I guess my mom got slushies. I was like, we run in and the movie had just started. So I tapped the guy next to me. He's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, did it just start? He's like, yeah. If we would have arrived a minute later, we would have missed the most intense part. Like, this movie was intense from when it started. It was captivating how they made this movie, the silence that it caused when the explosion hit. If we would have missed that, it would have ruined the whole everything. And I was like, that's so crazy. I was just about to be like, F everything. I can't believe the small thing that I was looking forward to, I can't even enjoy it. And then traffic just loosened up 20 minutes. That's insane. But how do you deal with that? Like, as, as a friend and also health coach, I'm curious because I'm battling this roller coaster myself all the time, being stuck in that and getting out of the feeling of you can just be happy and things will still happen. You don't have to get unhappy for the things to happen.
Yeah.
How do you unstuck that stupid stigma?
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things a human being can do, and that's trust. And I find myself in that situation all the time where I want to be in control. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to give it up. And I know that fear is coming. What if? Funny thing, I swear to you, I manifested my husband. And he is the complete opposite. He's like, everything's going to be fine. I don't know why you're upset. And sometimes I want to shake him like, don't you see? This is not fine. No, it's just trust the process. Honey, just trust the process. And sure enough, at the end, I thought, yeah, I should have trusted the process. Okay, got it. Just like with this is a great example with you feeling like I am not going to get to this movie, right? Now it's hard. It's so hard to say, I'm going to trust it. If I'm not supposed to be in that movie, then there maybe was some really bad stuff that I wasn't supposed to be there. It's okay. Everything to its time. And I'm actually saying these things out loud sometimes when I am especially in the car. Happens in the car all the time. I feel you so hard on that. Where I go,
it's not just me, thank God.
When I'm stuck and I get frustrated because somebody goes, even if it's just a person going 10 miles under the speed limit, oh my God. And then I think, everything to its time. You're supposed to get there when you get there because the universe makes sure nothing happens to you. It's okay. So something like this, I will say out loud to calm myself down and let go. So funny thing is I know we haven't talked about this yet and I don't want to derail us, but like in my natal chart, for example, you can see that there is a lot of action on one side, and that's the right side when you look at that, it's like a big circle. And an astrologer has told me before, if you have very heavy the right side, it means that you're not actually in control at all. It's all fate. Your life is fate. DJ's side, or my husband's side, is the opposite side. He is all on the wall. So
he has to control everything for you.
Who is actually the one person who's like, whatever, is like super in control, and the control freak over here is actually not in control at all because things are being done for me. And I have so many key situations in my life where I can't remember, how did I get there? Who did that decision for me? Did I fill out paperwork for that? I don't remember. And I know I can't remember because it was done for me and it was just whatever.
It's funny that you say that because I know that. Like when you say trust, I have it. I feel if I'm explaining like what that is like in another thing, it's sometimes if you're sick, let's say a cold and your throat hurts and everything's whatever, it's going to be over and it's going to be fine and you're going to be fine, but you still got to get through it. You can do things that help you feel better. You can take stuff, whatever, but it might just take time. And sometimes it's a 24-hour bug. And I know deep down that that's what it is. I know everything is going to work out the way I want it, and I'm going to get to the things I want to. But a lot of times, not in the way that I think. Actually, not just a lot of times, basically like all the time. Like because of what you said. You were the one that told me about the chart. And on the side, I was like, let me check out my chart. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like the one person, I don't get drunk because I don't like being out of control or embarrassed or anything. I try to plan, like control certain things, and to get somewhere, I like being able to be in charge of my goal, my happiness, and that it works. Like if I put in XYZ, that's going to happen. And like you said, and sometimes it's like I get a phone call from someone I didn't even know, and that person came with an opportunity. This has happened more times in my life than it should be normal. I've gotten jobs through situations where I don't even know how they found me. And sometimes I wish I could go back and figure out how this happened. Yeah. And at a time when I thought, even this job that I have now, my day job, like when I was laid off in summer, fall of 2022, I was like, cool, I'm going to go all in with acting. I got some savings and I'm going to start a company. And then I was like, I just never want to work full time again. That doesn't work. It's not going to work out with the time. And then in November, right when I launched my company, I got an email. Hey, in like end of August or whatever that was, you applied. Are you still interested? I was like, just leave that. Don't even answer. Then in January, I went on a trip, an acting trip to get my reels together. The day I came back, that person called me on my phone. I didn't even know all my info was there. Hey, we're really looking for someone. I was like, I'm really like not looking right now, but I'll come for the interview. And this was great, a great lesson for women, especially that usually feel like they need to be in the mold. Yes, I will do everything because you're scared. Because I had nothing to lose in this interview. And I was in there, it's like, hey, I'm an actor first. So if I need something, I know it's not a super flexible job, but that's what I do. And I need you to work with me. Second of all, he goes, so and so much an hour. I was like, nah, that's not going to be possible. And I put like $5 more. And I was like, so... I was like, take it or leave it. Legit. I was like, all right, take it or leave it. And I put all my stuff out. We were cool in that sense. And it turned out the actor's strike happened and a whole bunch of other stuff that year. If I wouldn't have gotten that job, I don't even know what would have happened. And I applied for this in like August, kind of, sort of right after my layoff. And then I was whatever. I ignored them in November. And then in January, the universe was like, pick up the freaking phone. You need this job. And they're so excited for me all the time when I book something or something happens. And I have a callback that I got to do in my office, which that is also funny. I had 2 callbacks this year for commercials. And the first one was after I'm done with like the patients that I have at work and I have my own office. I was like, cool. All right. So I'll take my like break at the end of the day. I don't have to remove anything for it. And then last week I had a callback and it was usually even between 2 patients, I thought, but it was actually on a day where I didn't have a patient in the afternoon. So I could freely use my office without having to move someone because I'm always freaking out. I'm testing like all day with people. And twice the universe when I'm always freaking out, I was like, oh my God, what if I get this call back and then it's at the time when I need a patient and then they're 30 minutes late and now I'm in this Zoom call and then this person's waiting here and it's not going to work out. And then it's always like, girl, I got the right time slot for you.
Right.
That trust. So trust is there. But it's like that thing, you know it's going to come, but you got to get through it. And I think I've said in the podcast many times, and you know this sentence because of what we did for work both together in the past to ride the wave. And this has been my favorite thing to say. I do not surf, and I wish I was a surfer, but that literally is the only thing that gets me through those hard times, to know it's a wave. It might be a really big one. And February was a big one. That's why I wasn't on the internet a lot. I was like riding that wave. So trust. So you say have trust, have faith. So getting back to when you also see a patient, the person comes to you, they might want to figure out how to better themselves, what is usually the first thing that you work with on people, something that anybody could do to help them get into the right mindset and get started?
I usually want to know what their motivation is behind it. You know, you could say your why. I know we a lot of people always talk about the why. And then, because I am a very visual person, I will ask you probably to tell me what your day looks like from morning to night. I need to understand what you do. I need to understand how you function. And right there, usually we figure out that it's actually never the food. It's never the food. It's always something else that blocks people from doing certain things that then are sometimes really hard conversation too. Especially when you work with women all the time. It's the control. It's being in charge of everything. And it's usually a lot of stress and not putting themselves first. It's just such a common theme that it's almost comical. When you start working, you're like, yeah, that's probably it. I don't know you yet, but I'm betting money on it. You know? And when you're someone I'm very intuitive. They come in I meet them. That's why I hate Zoom. I love when we still have like face to face, right? Because I can feel that energy coming off of you. I already know in what kind of mood they are when they are coming. And I don't know if it's intuition, if it's empathy, or if it's just me picking up on cues, picking up on facial expressions, body language, those little tiny things. It's probably a mix of everything. And trying to accommodate that energy so that we can build trust with each other. But a lot of times when clients are having a rough time being successful, it's not them not doing what they're supposed to do or what we're talking about or nutrition. It's always a surrounding problem in their life and how their life structure is set up. That is 99% of the time is the problem.
Interesting. So you would say it could be the routines they're in, the people that they're around, the job that they have or don't in that sense. Yeah. So it's the environment that you're in that creates all of that inside of you.
Yeah, it is. And it's sometimes weird things where you got to be really careful because we all are different people and we all have different energies and values that maybe someone comes in where my first thought is like, well, that's an easy fix. Why the heck are you doing that? You know, but then for them, it's actually not easy. For example, I had a client one time who, when we kept talking about nutrition and then out of a sudden I realized, talk to me about your home life and your kitchen. Come to find out, both of her kids were special needs, and husband was just work, nothing else in the picture, and it was borderline messes at home. So it was to the point where there was actually no kitchen. It was overwhelming, and we could not get out of that situation of utilizing her kitchen and her stove and her pots and pans and making a meal. It was all takeout food. So then we're trying to figure out, okay, if we can't overcome that hurdle, how can we make the takeout food better?
Yeah, smart.
Also, that also was taken out of her control. So there was a lot of things where sometimes you get to those points where you just have to sit down with yourself and be honest and say, that's out of my scope. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a counselor. I can't I don't know how to help you with that. I have some ideas, but I have to be careful what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah, that's important to know when you're working with someone, that they know what their boundaries are and limitations, especially when it comes to work. So I know if I want to see somebody to know, some people could get mad. Oh, so you don't want to help, but no, that's important. You specialize in what you do. You identified the root cause, and now that's
Yeah.
what it is. Ooh, I'm over
Yeah.
here. My battery running low on my phone. My phone is like, hey, do you want to charge me? um, well, yeah, I don't want to lose you here. But do you still take on clients, or you don't take on clients anymore?
No, not right now. I have so many people asking me about like group setup and detoxes and all kinds of things that I used to do in the past. And I said, not right now. It's just not, it just doesn't fit in our lifestyle right now. My books are pretty much full with other things. I started, as you know, thanks to you, started getting back into the actual, into the work world, after the kids were old enough. And, it's been, that's been a wave too. That's been a wild ride, which I'm still super grateful that it happened and that it brought me to where I am now. But it just doesn't fit in our lives right now.
Yeah, the universe has weird ways. So, but we can look forward to that podcast that you're going to start because then we can find out more. Especially, I know this sometimes when I post things about myself and people are like, oh, that's what I am. That's what it is. I always thought it was just me or weird. And sometimes seeing very unconventional things and things that you're interested in, but you don't know where to go to get information. I think podcasts are a really great way to get information, get it from as many people as you can to get different points of views. And we were talking about birth and natal charts, and we also have a friend because you, me, and another friend called Anika, we have our little like chat group, our little like tarot group, because you've been kind of our guide through this, getting into tarot more and more. I've always kind of done it. I've laid for people more intuitively than actually consciously knowing what the cards mean, but not really trusting in the abilities enough to keep doing it. So we lay cards, we talk together, interpret, and you've kind of been our guide through this. And Annika has really went on to a journey where she's now offering birth charts. She actually just posted this on her Instagram website. So we're definitely going to have to get her on. And I might actually just bring you back because I think the trio of us to talk more about what that means, maybe show our own examples, what that looks like, and how the three of us deal with it. Because even though we have a lot of similarities, we are three very different people, personality-wise, kind of, sort of, how our routines are, what we do in our life, our kids, our partners, where and how we live. So I think it'll be interesting to know what our similarities are and how we might still do things differently, but how having a tribe and just people around that understand you really, really helps. So to be able to share that would be so much fun. I love like sharing the world, my friends, and that's why this podcast is here. I have friends that I made over the years that are amazing. They do so many things, and a lot of people don't know all of the amazing things that they do. And that's why this podcast is here, and it's called The Experts That I Know. And you are my spiritual expert and guide, and I've always been grateful to have you there in the good and the bad times.
It's funny because right now, I actually, in my pan pocket, since you're talking about crystals, I have a moonstone in my pan pocket. So I always have to make sure that when I wash my laundry, and I check all my pockets with little trinkets and crystals. Because funny, when they used to have, and I don't know if that's true, somebody told me that story, but now dresses with pockets are super trendy again. And they used to have pockets in dresses in the Middle Ages until that became very unfashionable because it was said that only witches would have pockets in their dresses to keep their
Oh.
trinkets in there. And I said, bring on the pockets. I'm your witch. I'm good with that. Bring on the pockets.
Yep, happens to me too with the little pockets or my little like letters and things I write to the universe and my gratefulness, and sometimes I keep it in my pocket and it's like, it can't be in the wash. I love that.
Well, if it ends up in the wash, it was meant to be. It's all good.
Yeah, that just cleansed everything in there. Oh, we also definitely have to talk about oils and stuff the next time, because that's also something you do. All right, work with different oils holistically in that sense. I hate when the time goes by so fast, but it's going to have to be a part 2. Well, now everybody knows the expert that I know in all things spiritual. And even though we kind of just went and babbled a little bit about manifestation and what holistic health coaching actually is, we definitely have to come back to get more into it. So, womp, womp, womp. Got to come back for part 2. So thanks for being on, and thank you for tuning in. I